Hello, Stampin' Buddies. It's Lori from Lori's Little Bit of Crafting. And I am coming to you tonight. Sorry, I'm just trying to get the last of my settings ready to go here. So let's scooch this over a little bit. So we can get this show on the road. Hopefully that'll work. All right, so welcome. This is Lori from Lori's Little Bit of Crafting. I think I said that already. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the United States, coming to you very early Monday morning, April 7th. I started getting my things together before midnight, so it would have been Sunday night, but time got away from me. So you can kind of see what we're going to do here. So let me just cover that up for a second so I can kind of preface what we're making tonight. We are going to look at the Adventurous Sky bundle. This is a really fun stamp set. Whoops, so stuck on here. I've got a few of the stamps out, the clouds. I'm using this airplane, and a couple of the sentiments. There are also dies that are really fun. We're going to make a plane and a couple of clouds. Well, we're going to cut out a stamped plane, but it also makes this cool plane. So you can make this, I think it's called a biplane. So you can make the body of the plane, which I did here in Night of Navy, and then the wings and the engine console or whatever that is in a different color. And then there's the propellers that you can put on here. I used a metallic. And this happens to be a little bit of a fun fold. It's a book fold. I really wanted to have like a banner hanging off my plane, kind of like it's flying in the sky. And this card with this plane obviously wasn't long enough. And I thought, well, I could do like a Z fold and maybe pull it out. So that might be something I still do, except this set is now on the last chance list. So let me move these things out of the way. I'm also going to use this plaster painting 3D embossing folder, and I'm going to show you how to just emboss part of your paper for those of you who maybe haven't done that before. But this is the card that I used to inspire tonight's card. And I had a team meeting with my team leader today, and there were, I don't know, close to a dozen of us there. And we always do a shoebox swap. So one of the cards we got used this Adventurous Sky bundle. And thank you, Christine, for the inspiration. I think this was Christine's card. But I had this embossing folder. I had this Adventurous Sky. These are some, what are they called? Greetings for All Mix and Match ephemera packs. And I decided not to use that for my card, but it is really convenient if you're trying to do kind of a quick card. These sentiments are really cool. You get 6 pages of different sentiments. I think I've shown these in the past. There's a bunch of different packs of those available. Now, this card used, I think this is Summer Splash. It looks like Summer Splash to me, which is a current in color that's going to continue for another year. And this card goes up and down this way. So it folds, I guess that would be a hot dog fold, because I think hamburger fold is this way. So I wanted my card to go landscape. Okay, so this one would be portrait and this one would be landscape. Normally I do my cards so they open this way, But with this plain, I thought it would be fun to have a little fun fold. So we're going to do this, okay? And we are going to utilize some paper from the Take to the Sky paper. This is not on the last chance list right now. So I can only guess that maybe it's going to carry over perhaps as an online exclusive. I haven't really looked. I have to admit I didn't look. But you can see where I've cut up a lot of my pieces. There are some 2 sheets that you get that have some like card front elements on them, but they're all 2-sided. You can see there's some pretty fun designs in here. A lot of versatility. And we're just gonna, I like this one too, with the browns in there. We're just going to use a few pieces. I did this card on Night of Navy. We're gonna do another card using boho blue, which is an in color that is leaving us at the end of this current annual catalog. So the very first part of May, that catalog is done. We're getting a new catalog on May 6th. The boho blue cardstock, I looked, it appears to be gone. Okay. There is still a multi-pack with the whole set of 5 cardstock colors that were the in color for 23 to 25. I think they call it a variety pack. I don't remember. So there was some boho blue in there. So if you really like boho blue, you might want to get some of that. I think the alcohol blends were still there. A re-inker was there. So if you've gotten this color before and if you didn't get a re-inker, you might want to order the re-inker, because that way you can extend the life of your ink pad, of course. If you can re-ink it, then you can use that color more and more. And boho blue was a pretty popular color. So we are going to use this for our card base. So this is just a standard card size, but it's only half of it. All right, so it doesn't open at all. So we've got 5.5 by 4 1/4. So normally, if I had like my 8.5 by 11, I would score it at 5.5 and cut it at 4 1/4. But I'm just going to use a quarter there, so I just cut in both directions. So I'm going to set that off to the side. And then I've got a few accent pieces. So for this piece, we're going to use 2 of them. And this piece is 1, let me think, 1 3/8, I think. Yeah, not quite to 1 1/2. So 1 3/8 by 3 7/8. And you want 2 of those. And then I have a little accent piece. This is just 5/8 inch. So a little over a 1/2 inch. And that also is 3 7/8. Okay. So we're going to set those off to the side. And we are also going to use one of these card front pieces. And I'm going to show you, oops, I actually still have a full pack. I guess I should put it right side up. Hopefully there's not a glare on this. But these are the pieces that you can just cut and make some tags or make some card front elements. So I'm going to use this one, but I'm going to cut it down because I want it to fit this panel here on the inside. So this piece needs to be cut to 3 7/8 by 4, I guess. So 3 7/8. I'm going to make this go to 4. And I'm just going to check. So 4 by 4 is too much, but I wanted, actually this will work. I'm glad I cut it that way. So 4 across here, 3 7/8 here. So I'm going to take, if this is 4, I'm going to take, I think, my 1/8 inch off the bottom, because that'll kind of keep the plane still in the center. Okay. So this piece I don't need. I can hang on to that for another card. And then let's set that aside. And I'm going to kind of keep this kind of at the ready. We are going to take about half a sheet of basic white cardstock. So I have cut this. This normally is 8.5 by 11. Hopefully you can see this. Normally it's 8.5 by 11. We're going to leave it at 11, but we're going to trim it to 4 inches. All right, so I already did that. But now I want to score it. And we are going to score this at 4 1/4, which is a normal kind of card front size. We're going to score it at 4 1/4, and then we're going to score it at 9.5. And that's going to get our little fun fold here, okay? Let me get that out of the way. So when I score, the indentation goes down, right? The mountain to me, where that bump is, always goes to the middle. All right, so we're going to go ahead and burnish that fold. And I'm, for fun, going to burnish this fold as well, but this is a section we are going to use our embossing folder and do some dry embossing. So let me get that embossing folder back over here. I put the whole thing out of the way. And I'm going to get some of these things I did ahead of time just to save time. Okay. Because I'm a putsy stamper and I usually go over time. I try to keep these kind of short, but they usually end up being about a half an hour. I don't know why. Maybe I should talk faster. Maybe I should just move faster, but for me, stamping is relaxing. All right. So this is, I think, yes, this is a 3D embossing folder. All right. Plaster painting 3D embossing folder. So if we look at our plate, our base plate, if we come down here, there are instructions for using a 3D embossing folders. All you need is your platform number 1 and the embossing top plate number 4. This is in place of your cutting plates and you don't need the shim. All right. So what we're going to do is, you always want to make sure that you're putting your embossing folder with the fold going in. If you put it with like the feet or the open side going in, if it gets hung up or misaligned at all, you can snap this binding and then your embossing folder is basically ruined. So make sure that you're always putting it in the right way. So I am going to put our paper in just to where this fold is, but there's a portion on the embossing folder right here on the end that doesn't have any design. So that's where I want my fold to sit. All right. Now we can use some washi tape to help hold it in place. And that might not be a bad idea. Normally I don't, but it doesn't hurt. You can always take the washi tape off. You can reuse your washi tape. So what I'm looking for here is, I have my fold. Here's where the design ends. And I want my fold right up to that line. And it carries through over here. All right, so let's just put this down. Fold our embossing folder over. And then it's going to go in between these 2 plates. All right. Now normally I tell you to have your middle piece extending past your platform. In this case, if we extend it past our platform, part of our card is not going to get embossed. So I want to make sure that it's in all the way. All right. And I'm just going to start feeding this through. All right. And let me get this all out of the way. And then when we open this up, here is our fun fold, all right? So this can come off. This is still sticky enough. I can use it again. Sometimes when you use the washi tape and you're die cutting, the washi tape kind of gets cut with the item that you're die cutting, so sometimes you can't do that. But when you're doing embossing, dry embossing, it usually works pretty well. So I'm just going to burnish that a little bit more. Now, because of the embossing folder design, there's a little piece here that came up from the fold. So let's just trim that because that might bother me a little bit. So we'll just trim that off and nobody will know. Okay, so let's put our pieces together here. All right. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this right in here. Now I'm going to use my Tombow multi-purpose adhesive glue. I don't put a lot on, but I do put it over the entire surface. So I just use a very thin layer. But I like the Tombow glue because if you don't have your piece quite in the right place, you usually have a little bit of wiggle room before it sets. Okay. And then this piece is going to go right here. And again, I'm putting it over the whole surface, but I'm not using a thick layer. I'm using just a very thin layer. There we go. Let's straighten that out a little bit. I think that's pretty good. This one will go in here. And I'm putting these on the inside just because it gives it a more finished look, but then it also pulls the outside of the card to the inside of the card. And depending on the kind of, you know, the design on your designer series paper, sometimes you can use the flip side to have just a coordinating look. But I preferred, that just looks too drab to me. So I am using the boho blue pattern side. All right, so there's that. So now what I want to do is put a sentiment on the inside and a little plain. So we are going to use You're the Best, plain and simple. Now, because this is a red rubber cling stamp, I do not necessarily need a piercing mat underneath it because it's already got foam under the red rubber. And I offset this to the left just because when this is closed, I still want it to kind of be in the center. All right. Yes, I got this a little bit crooked. I should have probably tested this out beforehand, but it'll probably go to a guy, so they're not going to care. All right, so this piece, I think I want to stamp off because I just want a subtle plain. So we're going to stamp off and put that down there. All right. Now in this card, I used a blending brush just to kind of rough up the color. You might not be able to see that on there. I'm not going to do it on this one just because it's a lighter color, and we probably don't really need the blending brush in there. I can always add it later. Okay, so now that I stamped this and it's okay, I can go ahead and glue this on now. Or if you prefer tear and tape, I have some stampers that stamp with me and they like tear and tape for everything. I think because it's just easy to roll out the tear and tape. So let's go ahead and put this down. And again, the Tombow liquid glue gives us a little bit of wiggle room usually. That looks pretty good. All right. So the other things that I've pre-done then is I took some of our white baker's twine and I used my light boho blue and colored it. All right, because I didn't want it white. I wanted it to show up. If it's white, it to me didn't have the same effect. All right, so that's going to go on there. And I gave it a little bit of time to dry. The first one that I did in Night of Navy kind of bled through my cardstock because it was still a little damp. All right, so I'm going to cut this into kind of like an arrow shape. And then for my back flagged end, I snip in the middle up maybe about a 1/4 inch. And then I go from corner to the top of where I snipped, or the end of where I snipped. And then I take from the corner to the end of where I snipped. And then you have a pretty equal flag. All right. And then what I'm going to do here is affix that baker's twine, because this is going to have the appearance of flying off of the plane. Okay. And then we're going to add some dimensionals. Now I am working off a lot of edges, but there's nothing wrong with using the edges because they are perfectly capable of adhering your item. I usually trim mine down to smaller sections. And then these pieces that I already stamped and die cut are these clouds and then this plane. Okay, so here's the plane. I just ran it through my die cutting machine. A couple of clouds, and I stamped them and ran all three at the same time. Okay, now so I don't lose anything, I'm gonna put those right onto my magnet, because with my luck I would lose them. All right, and then this is for my recycle bin. Now this one, let's put some seal on here as well. And it's going to kind of come off the tail of the plane. So let's just put some seal on here. And anything that hangs over the edges, I can just fold back on itself. And then we're going to kind of line this up to see how much it needs to have in between. So maybe about 1/2 inch. So I'm just going to tap that on there so we can press that down. And then we're going to put some dimensionals over that. And I think I want to use maybe full-size dimensionals. I have so many partial sheets. So let's just put a couple of these on here because I want to make sure it doesn't come off. And then when we're lining this up, I want this plane to hang over this side. And if we go up a little higher, then my flag can hang down and extend without going over the edge of the card. Okay, so I want to make sure that I don't put dimensionals on this part. So I can just kind of go like this. And I want to make sure I don't put dimensionals on this section. So we'll just put a couple more here. And I think I'll use a little one here and here. All right, so those are ready. And then let's get my take your pick tool. We'll take these all off. Now, I like to use the pokey end of my take your pick tool to get these backs off, because for me it's usually easier than trying to pick with my fingernails. I think we have everything. All right. So let's go ahead. Oops, I want that white layer on top. I'm going to go like this. And then let's find some places to put our clouds. So I think on my prototype, I had them both raised on dimensionals, but I think this one I want down flat, and this one I'm going to put on dimensionals, I think. Maybe I should do that. So that one can go there. I kind of like that one behind there, I guess. All right, so let's put a little liquid glue on this one. We'll tuck that under here. And if that goes a little over my card front, that layer, I'm all right with that. Okay. And then let's put some glue here. I'll tuck that right back under those dimensionals. So the only thing that I was avoiding was I didn't want the cloud to hang under where the plain wing is, but that's just me. All right, and then we've got these basic gray and smoky slate pearls. To tell you the truth, I'm not sure if they're still available if you wanted these specific ones. There's a couple of different shades. And I think I'm gonna use the lighter ones. So I'm just going to put 3 on here. And try not to overthink it too much. Okay. So there's our card. All right. Now, again, where was my inspiration card? I think I buried it. So here's the card I used from inspiration from this afternoon. Here was my first one using Night of Navy. Okay. And then here's the second one using boho blue. I am quite honestly not sure which one I like better. So which one do you like better? This boho blue or that Night of Navy? Leave me a comment if you like this idea, if you like the fun fold idea. If you could give me a thumbs up, that really helps me. And if you feel so inclined to share my video with your friends, that would be great. One other thing I want to remind everybody is that until April 10th, I am offering a bit of a bonus. Cardstock prices are going up with the new catalog that is going to release on May 6th. My recommendation is to stock up on any colors you might want now before the price goes up. All right. What I am offering is if you purchase 6 packs of cardstock using this host code at my site, lorimakari.stampinup.net, I will give you a refund or a rebate, however you want to think about it, for one of your packs. So basically, if you buy 5, you're going to get 1 free. All right, so you will order the packs that you want, so they get shipped to you. I will watch this host code, and for those that use this host code for the cardstock, you can use this for any purchase actually through April 10th. But for those who use this host code for the 6 packs of cardstock, I will issue you a refund or a rebate for 1 pack of cardstock. So that is all I have for you tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed these cards, and hopefully this has inspired you to make your own. And even if you use a whole different set of designer series papers, different embellishments, different images, that fun fold is pretty fun. All right. So I think that's all I've got. Until next time, happy stamping.